The 36-year-old man was hit by a northbound Southern Pacific train under the I-10 overpass at Bob Hall Road.
The investigation right now is continuing, but it does look like the subject was either incapacitated there or has gone to sleep next to the rails itself and was struck by the engine as it passed.
Mrs. Debbie Collins was driving by and saw the victim before the accident.
I was on my way to pick my mother up, and there was this man sitting on the track underneath the freeway. And he was just sitting there, and then I looked in my rearview mirror, and he was standing up, and he was dusting his shirt off, and he had gear with him. And that was all I seen.
About what time was this?
It was about 10:30.
Was he the only person you saw around there? Was anybody else near him?
No, nobody else. Just he was all I seen.
Did he appear to be sick or having problems or anything?
No. He seemed fine.
Did the conductor or the engineer of the train see him before he struck him?
Yes, he did. He saw him for a noticeable distance. He indicated to us that he had blown his horn several times. The subject didn't move. Due to the 170 cars behind the engine, he was unable to stop the train in time to keep from striking the subject.
Justice of the Peace Claude Wimberly ordered the body taken to an Orange funeral home where an autopsy will be conducted. From Orange, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
If the petrochemical industry does not have a disposal site, they're in very serious problems. If it isn't local, they have to truck it hundreds of miles to another location. And of course, you know, these costs are then passed on to all of the consumers. So we feel like that in turn we are saving industry plus the consumers money. Along with that, it discourages what is known as midnight dumping because there is a legal place to go with it.
Fire broke out inside the rubber technology plant on Old Highway 90 off Womack Road about 2 p.m. And just 30 minutes later, the entire factory was leveled by flames that caved in the roof and shot some 200 feet into the air. Smoke from the burning synthetic rubber rose up to 1,000 feet in the air and left a thick haze 2 miles around the business. 7 fire departments from Vidor, Bridge City, Orange, West Orange, Deweyville, Little Cypress, and Pinehurst fought the blaze. Their biggest problem was preventing the fire from spreading to surrounding businesses and into dry pasture lands and marshes. Flames did spread into neighboring fields but were quickly extinguished. When firemen first arrived, 2 explosions were heard inside the factory, and some of those initial firefighters were overcome by the intense heat and smoke. But no one was seriously hurt. The 14 workers inside the factory and several office workers in the brick building in front of the plant all escaped.
It started outside the plant and back of the plant and caught some rubber on fire, and with the wind, the high wind coming up, the rubber started burning fast, and with the wind catching on the rubber, that type of rubber burned very easy and quickly.
Had you been burning something behind the building before it started?
Not this afternoon, no. We have a place back there where we burn material periodically, but we had not burned anything this afternoon. Evidently, from the previous burning, there was some coals or something of that sort, which could have started it. We don't know.
Mr. Wood says he expects damage to his business to total more than $1.5 million. The exact cause of the blaze is still under investigation.
The Corpus Christi pilot took off from the Beaumont Municipal Airport this morning at 7:30, flying on instruments only because of very dense fog with almost zero visibility. He has been identified as C. Doug Freeberg, a pilot who flies in and out of the airport several times a week for his oilfield production company work. Only minutes after taking off from the airport, the twin-engine plane came crashing down. It's still unknown whether the plane developed engine problems, the equipment malfunction, or the pilot developed vertigo. A Gulf States employee working at a substation on Old Sour Lake Highway was the first to hear the crash.
We heard an engine. It sputtered about twice, and we heard something hit the ground. So we knew something was wrong, so we ran outside the fence, and it was so foggy you couldn't see anything till you got about 30 yards from it. The flames were right where he was. It was right in between the wings, which is where he sits. And we could see him inside. We couldn't see anybody else. We tried to get to it anyway. You couldn't get 20 feet from it, and the flames were too hot.
Flames were shooting 20 to 30 feet into the air in the field behind the GSU substation when Jefferson County officials arrived. Sergeant T.A. Cox explains how it appears the pilot crash-landed in the soybean field.
He didn't have much altitude. You can see the tops of the tree over yonder where he clipped the tree as he came over. Apparently this throwed his left wing high. His left wing went into the high line. His right wing hit the ground, and he cartwheeled, it would appear, tearing off part of the fuselage and his wings. His nose wheel lying out yonder, as you can see. And the plane apparently righted itself and came in here belly down.
The National Transportation Safety Board is investigating the crash, and Justice of the Peace Leroy Doucette will not make a ruling on the pilot's death until the board gives him their report. An autopsy has been ordered. Barbara Bedrick, Channel 6 News.
The last city election was held here in 1976. Since then, the federal government, city officials, and residents have been fighting a three-way battle, each group having their own plan to solve Port Arthur's voting problems. Yesterday, attorneys representing the three groups met to discuss the possibility of holding city elections, but everyone agreed that nothing could be done until the courts have made a ruling.
The fact that any kind of a decision to go forward with any sort of plan right now would be inappropriate because of the fact that we should be just within hours or days before the time when the three-judge federal court in Washington will issue a decision on whether or not to accept the city of Port Arthur's plan for a 4-4-1 electoral system.
Well, I don't even vote anymore because, you know, they don't look like it's not going to make a difference anyway because look like City Hall, they have a gimmick. You know, Reverend Hall been trying to help and other people been trying to help, but there's no need.
Well, I'd like to get some more elections, but I don't know what's holding it up other than all of the disagreement between certain factions. I live in Port Arthur and have ever since I've been here, and I support them.
I've heard quite a bit about it, but it seems that everybody can't agree, and I think they should agree.
City officials contend that there is a slim chance an election could be held in April. The judges would have to make a ruling by Wednesday, March 1st to make that possible. In Port Arthur, Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News.
There is approximately 75 to 100 miles of yard and mainline railroad track running within the city of Beaumont. On a daily basis, highly explosive chemicals are transported on tracks that are seldom inspected. That's because Texas has no state track inspectors. The only type of track inspection that Texas cities do receive comes from 11 federal track inspectors who spread themselves over a 5-state area. Knowing that 20% of this country's energy is railed through the Gulf Coast area, the city of Beaumont, strongly backed by Mayor Maury Myers and Judge Richard LeBlanc, has supported state legislation to get funds allocated for the hiring of 6 state track inspectors. The mayor and others involved collected extensive information on derailments around the state and then presented it to the Texas Senate, House, and state agencies. With the help of the Texas Municipal League, a big step has been made.
They have taken our information and have done a very good job in carrying that message to all of these people at the hearings. And so this week we really got the first positive step when the committee supported the inclusion of funds for rail safety. This would be the first time, because within the state there have never been rail safety inspectors, because there has never been $1 allocated for that purpose.
The mayor adds that there are 2 more committees to get by before funds can be allocated for hiring state track inspectors. But he optimistically adds that growing support will probably make it all possible. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News. The rower of this boat has left the calm waters of San Francisco Bay and is presently rowing across the Pacific Ocean. He is 33-year-old Peter Bird, shown here limbering up his rowing arms in preparation for his 8,500-mile-plus journey. Bird is an unusual case. In fact, you might call him a guinea pig, because while he makes his journey, NASA officials will know exactly where he is. The reason? A new locator beacon is being installed in his boat, and that will send out his location to a space satellite.
It just sends a message up to Nimbus 6. It has 2 positions on it, normal, which is just a tracking signal, and an emergency. If anything goes wrong, I can flip the emergency.
When the satellite orbits overhead, the information goes from NASA's experimental weather satellite, Nimbus 6, to a ground station in Alaska. From there, it goes to the Goddard Space Center in Maryland. There, the signal is decoded, and the small boat's exact location is pinpointed.
I think it's a great idea, not from an emergency point of view, but just so people will know where I am, what's going on, the progress I'm making, because radio transmissions in a small boat are very difficult. To actually to send a signal across 4,000 miles of ocean from a small boat is really quite difficult and relies a lot on good weather, and really good weather. So this would be great. People will know that I'm okay.
NASA officials hope to use the device on cruise ships, oil tankers, even on Navy vessels. Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
Officials from the Federal Aviation Administration and the Civil Air Patrol were also at the crash site this morning. Most of the work today involved gathering parts from the plane and trying to piece together what happened. Warren Wandell from the National Transportation Safety Board is in charge of the investigation.
We know that he departed Beaumont Municipal yesterday morning. The weather at the time was fog and I think about 600 feet visibility. He obviously took off with no problem. He cleared the power lines at the end of the runway over there, and it got about a mile and a quarter from the runway when he struck some trees at about the 7-foot level on the east side of the canal.
It is still too early to tell if the pilot had engine trouble once he was airborne, but he had received clearance to take off from the Jefferson County Airport. One final question. Is it abnormal for someone to take off in foggy weather such as he did?
No, it's not abnormal. It's restricted in the sense that you have to be an instrument-rated pilot to do it. However, people do it a lot.
It will take about 2 months before the investigation is completed. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
This was the scene Friday afternoon when a fire broke out at the rubber technology plant. Flames shot more than 200 feet high and smoke was up to 1,000 feet. It is believed that a trash fire may have started this blaze. The building was completely engulfed in 30 minutes. It was clear to see today that the plant was reduced to hundreds of pieces of twisted metal.
We had grass fires in the rear, and then the smoke is what hurt everybody so bad because you couldn't get up into it, and toxic fumes off of it.
Okay. When did you basically get it under control?
About 7 p.m. when we called it under control. And we started cutting some trucks loose at that time.
Okay. So basically right now you're just clearing out the hot spots and just making sure everything's put out.
Right. That's the reason we got this front end loader in here, was to move this stuff around where we could get all the hot spots where it was in underneath.
All of the workers in the plant escaped without any injuries. Damages are estimated to be about $1.5 million. It took the combined force of all of the fire departments in Orange County 7 hours to put the fire out, and they used more than 2 million gallons of water to do it. 3 Pinehurst firemen were taken to Orange Memorial Hospital for smoke inhalation. They are reported to be in stable condition. An investigation into the cause of the fire is now underway. In Orange, Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News. Battling a tank truck fire can prove to be a challenging and dangerous situation for firefighters. What to do with that type of problem was the topic of a seminar of the Sabine Nature's Chiefs Association. This group consists of fire departments from within the Golden Triangle and the surrounding counties. Most of the firemen here feel that the information gathered will give them some type of idea about what to do if a tank truck should explode in their area.
And this is what we're trying to just give everyone some idea of what they have to look for, precautions that they will have to observe. And then, of course, there's a lot of spectators that you have to protect also. Well, a lot of times your only offense really on one of these is just to lay hose lines and back everyone away till you really can determine what is in it.
In Port Arthur, Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News.
The last time Texas state colleges and universities received a tuition increase was more than 10 years ago. That is not to say that tuition will be increasing this year, but several groups claim that additional money is needed in higher education, and a tuition increase is the most likely possibility.
The amount of subsidy that the state is giving, to a student amounts to about 92%. In other words, tuition amounts to about only 8% of the cost. So when a student pays his tuition, that's only really a fraction of the total cost of his higher education.
If the legislature does decide to increase tuition, it is not known how much of an increase will be needed and if it will be one large sum or spread out over a number of years.
Certain consideration should be given to some type of an increase, whether it's all at one time or whether it's over a period of time. That's a question that still has not been resolved.
There is a possibility that if a tuition increase is granted, it could be in effect as early as the fall semester of this year. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
Beaumont's first active solar heated house is open for display this weekend. The home owned by Mr. Dana Smith is located at 8210 Webb on Beaumont's west end. A 1/25 horsepower pump moves water through solar collectors mounted on the roof. The water is heated by the sun and then stored in insulated tanks. The hot water is then used to heat the house and also for human consumption. The system does have several backups, including a small 40-gallon electric water heater and a standard high-efficiency heat pump. Mr. Smith explained to us the difference between active and passive solar heating systems.
Well, active solar heating is actually taking solar radiation and modifying it into another form of heat and storing it in some way so that you can utilize it as a heat source or an energy source in a means of heating. Whereas passive, you use no mechanical devices. You either build a house in such a way that you're capturing the southern sun and perhaps focusing the solar radiation onto through glass and onto brick walls and so forth, which will absorb heat during the day and slowly radiate the heat out in the nighttime. We have the Southeast Texas first active solar heated house.
The active solar heating system will be on display to the public tomorrow from 2 to 6 p.m. George Gattasa, Channel 6 News.
This is Mr. Carr.
2005 freefall jump, for which he will be presented the Diamond Wings Award. This award is given to our local skydiver to signify that he has made 2005 freefall jumps.
Well, it's not far down to paradise, at least it's not for me. And if the wind is right, you can sail away and find tranquility. Oh, the canvas can do miracles, just you wait and see. Believe me, it's not far to Never Never Land. Reason to pretend, and if the wind is right, you can find the joy of innocence again. Oh, the canvas can do
Bronson
miracles.
Pie, Champagne, and congratulations to Mr. Carl Newberg for his 2005 freefall jump. Fred Harris, reporting for Channel 6 News.
Beaumont businessman Ben Rogers is upset with the new Central Appraisal Office, and he let the Jefferson County Commissioners know it this morning. He believes there is no one who can watch over this group, which will allow them to do practically anything they want to concerning taxes without the public having a say in the matter. As an example, he pointed out how the appraisal office was not even considering locating their officers where the majority of the population is.
I still haven't heard of any place that these people have gone to find to see if they can lease space, including the courthouse, including the office buildings in downtown Beaumont and in Port Arthur and in other areas. And I believe that whatever they do is going to be an additional cost, an additional burden to the taxpayers. And just as I heard you today talking about saving dollars, which I want to congratulate you on, because every dollar comes out of the taxpayer's pocket, that these people be made to understand that they're responsive to somebody, and I'm going to try to find out to whom.
The flooding problem in Drainage District 6 is causing quite a controversy. Ever since the heavy rains flooded out homes in that area, criticism of the drainage commissioners by the public also began to flow. It has reached the point where residents want to elect drainage commissioners rather than rely on the county commissioners court to appoint them. This morning, County Attorney LaVon Jones made 3 suggestions concerning the proposed legislation to commissioners. He asked the court to approve raising purchases without bids from $1,000 to $3,000 and to lower the deposit requirement from 25% to 10%. Finally, Jones asked that a bid bond be used instead of a 5% cashier's check for contractors. All of these proposals will make it easier for drainage contracts to be handled and possibly save time in cleaning up ditches before heavy rains can make them useless. There is one catch. Special legislation must be introduced to the House before March 13th. Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News. Texas is now the 4th largest state in the United States in terms of population. As a result, 3 new House seats will be added. Where will our new congressmen come from? This question is presently facing state lawmakers in Austin, specifically in the Senate, where Senator Tadej San Sebastian heads the Senate Redistricting Committee. According to the new preliminary census figures, Houston, Lake Jackson, and Dallas are the front runners. But that depends on who you listen to. An ideal district in Texas is composed of about 525,000 people. Keeping that figure in mind, here's how the front runners look. Representative Bill Archer's 7th district seat is sure to be broken up. The Lake Jackson and Dallas seats are less sure. Ron Paul serves 186,000 more people than he should, while Jim Collins has 171,000 to his credit. Looking at the numbers, there would appear to be a lockup for the top 3 House seats, but District 9, presently held by Jack Brooks, is a mystery. The numbers show only a 1.4% increase in population since 1970, but lawsuits by Beaumont and other cities against the Census Bureau may change those figures. In fact, many experts, including the same state senators who will be changing the districts in Texas, say Jefferson County could change drastically in shape and thus change in population. In the next 2 months, the Congressional Redistricting Subcommittee will hold 6 hearings in various portions of the state to determine how to draw up the new districts. Their information already shows that Jefferson County by itself could hold 2 ideal-sized districts and more than 50% of a 3rd House district. So while the present numbers would indicate a loss for Southeast Texas representation, the future numbers are not yet known, and those are the numbers that count. Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
If you're like most Americans, you're waiting just a little bit longer this year to go ahead and file your income tax return. The total number of returns filed by mid-February is down about 6.4% from the same period last year. Why the slower filing rate?
The economy affects a lot of things. We do not have the money, perhaps, to go ahead and pay our balance due on our tax returns this year as we did in other years. Locally, I think the strike has a lot to do with it. The people who were fortunate enough to work this strike, of course, their incomes are a lot higher, and consequently they owe money. And also the people that did not work the strike, they withdrew from probably their profit-sharing plans in order to have money, and they're going to owe money, so that means they're going to be late filing this year.
In Texas, the refunds this year are averaging slightly higher than last year. Most refund checks amount to $583.10. And the vast majority of early filers use the short 1040A form. That's 84% using the short form. By the time April 15th rolls around, the Internal Revenue Service expects that only 20 to 25% of income tax forms will be the longer itemized version. The volume of returns always increases in March as people delay their tax figuring, and the IRS confirms that the very last day is always the largest. Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
About 6 weeks ago, the Port Neches councilman voted to build a new Woolton and F.E. Hebert library at an estimated cost of $350,000. Mayor Greg Graham says the city will not only get a new library, but a new police station and a new wing to City Hall. The plan includes moving the police station, which is located inside the City Hall, into the present George T. Boyd Library, giving the city government more office space. Mayor Graham contends that it is cheaper to build a new library than to expand the present facility. However, these residents disagree, saying that the George T. Library meets the city's needs. At the council meeting tonight, the citizens group presented a petition to the city fathers asking that the proposal be placed on the April 4th ballot. There was some discussion by the councilman whether or not to validate the signatures and how long it would take to do so and whether it could be done in time for the April election. The city father decided to accept the petition only as it was read in the agenda. This apparently means that the signatures, at least for now, will not be validated, and that angered Dorothy Stanley.
The council is already in a position where it could put the referendum on the ballot. We are only asking that the people vote. We are not at this time campaigning for or against. We're only being asked that we may vote on a capital improvements program.
Ms. Stanley says that she will confer with her attorney and they will possibly seek some type of legal action against the city. In Port Neches, Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News.
Use of illicit drugs by young people is leveling off, according to a nationwide survey of high school seniors. And this finding relates to Port Arthur schools. Only 16 cases of drug use or possession have been reported this year. But despite the lessened popularity of marijuana, principal of the largest of Port Arthur's high schools, believes the country western craze is contributing to an increased consumption of alcohol.
It looks like the kids are drinking more liquor to me.
Students caught with drugs are usually threatened with expulsion from school. But Port Arthur officials have opted to help kids using drugs rather than merely turning them out onto the streets. The student is suspended and his school activities are curtailed. And most importantly, special counseling is mandatory.
We require kids to go to a counseling session with some professional counselor, PDAP, MHMR, or a private person with their parent. And they make monthly reports to me. But the primary thing is getting the kid to see that that's a wrong thing to do, whether he knows it or not.
Mr. Rothenberger believes that curbing drug and alcohol misuse begins at home, and he advocates educating parents about drugs so that they can be more aware of their child's involvement. Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
Depending on who you talk to, there are either plenty of family apartments waiting to be rented, or there are very few. We spoke with 2 apartment rental agencies today.
Very few apartments in Beaumont will take a family with children. A lot of them have, quite a few rules and regulations. No children over 3. No children in an upstairs apartment. So if the only apartment available is an upstairs apartment, you go somewhere else to find one.
What about family apartments? Is there a limited number of those in Beaumont?
Actually, all the new construction is family apartments. Thanks to the new HUD finance properties that are coming into the area.
The situation breaks down like this. There are family apartments waiting to be rented in Beaumont, but there are only a limited number, and most of them are high-priced. Also, most apartments for families only go up to 3 bedrooms, so if you have more than 3 children, chances are the landlords will not rent to you.
That's it in a nutshell. I've heard too many stories and seen the damage that children have caused, which, of course, is the parents' fault. But the good ones are suffering for the bad.
Is it hard for maybe a family of say, 4 to come to Beaumont and find a place that they're happy with?
No, we have over 2,600 units under construction now, and of those 2,600, only about 200 are leased.
So the overall family apartment picture in Beaumont could be classified as improving. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
Next week, Tony Finch will conclude the search for his mother and 9 sisters and brothers. Tony was placed in a foster home in New York City when he was 3 years old, and he stayed there until he was 17. The only thing he knows about his brothers and sisters is that they were placed in similar homes during their childhood. After spending several years in the Air Force, he got married and moved to Beaumont and later to Vidor. In 1972, at a reunion at the foster home, he located a New York City policeman who he grew up with. With the help of the policeman, and after 9 long years, Tony received a very important phone call last night.
And he gave my brothers my phone number, and my brother called me last night, which floored me. I like to fell on the floor. And we talked, and he gave me my sister's phone numbers, 3, 4 of my sister's phone numbers, my mother, she's 71 now. And I haven't seen any of them for 35 years. And it's just been like, you know, I thought I never would see any of them. And it just, I don't know, I'm just floored by the whole thing.
Tony is not sure what he will say to his family. However, he is happy that his search for his family is over. In Vidor, Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News.
About 2 years ago, Governor Clements established the Texans War on Drugs Committee, which is a group of a number of people from around the state of Texas. This group researched the problem of drug abuse among our young people, drug trafficking in the state.
The whole program is established around a preventative nature. We're talking about a long-range plan. Presently, we are working along preventative lines, but also in helping turn children around who are already on drugs with our parent-peer group formation. Long range, our goal is to have a parent-peer group established in every classroom, in every school, and every community in the state of Texas.
Last night, the Jefferson County Board of Judges finally picked a replacement for the late Leila Widener as county auditor. The man selected for the post is 48-year-old Clyde Richmond, an auditor with the Internal Revenue Service, and up until this morning, the board president of the Beaumont Independent School District.
Our function was simply to ultimately make a selection, as of course you would appreciate, the person that we were most, I guess, impressed with under the circumstances of our responsibility.
Richmond was required to resign from the school district to avoid any future conflict of interest between the two entities. 1 year remains on his 3-year term, and school officials will be looking for an immediate replacement. Richmond, however, will be taking over the reins at the auditor's office just in time for working on the new county budget.
We are at this time beginning our preliminary budget work. That'll be one of the first things that will be taken up. So just to familiarize him with the mechanics of running the office and just basics at this point.
Ware has been serving as acting auditor, and he is expected to remain on the auditor's staff as chief assistant. As for Richmond, the new job is a challenge he's looking forward to.
I'm extremely pleased to have been selected by this fine group of judges for the job, this very responsible job. I'm following, I feel like, in the footsteps of two of the finest auditors that have ever served in this position, in the last two auditors that were on the job.
Richmond's term will run until January of 1983. Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
City officials say they have a good idea of what programs will be reduced in Reagan's proposal, public and low-income housing.
We're taking an approach where we want to involve ourselves, the city, private developers, housing authority, and realtors, mortgage companies, finance people, and do it ourselves.
The mass transit system is another area that city officials believe will receive less funding.
We're going to have to deal with, I'm sure, cutbacks in dollars that would support our transit system.
Health care and revenue-sharing dollars are also among the casualties.
Health care and the clinic that we're coming forward with, programs like that are going to be cut off. Also, our revenue-sharing dollar will be reduced approximately 10%.
Those are just a few. Members of the Beaumont City Council just returned from Washington, where they attended a National League of Cities meeting. There, Reagan told them of even more cuts. So how will Beaumont deal with all these cutbacks?
What we need to do is stress efficiency and continue to work hard for all of our departments to maximize their efficiency to get the greatest amount of work done for the dollars that we have. And I think it's a good challenge, and I think it's one that we should accept and can handle.
The mayor also says there is a lot of local talent and expertise in the area to help Beaumont make it through the budget cuts. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News.
Stealing a man's horse was about the worst crime you could commit 100 years ago, back in the days of the Old West, but it's still a crime that's rather common in the Golden Triangle today.
From September of last year, we've had 7 reported horse theft cases. Out of the 7, we've recovered 4.
The horse thieves have several options. The horses can be sold as bucking stock at local rodeos, sold to meatpacking companies for 52 cents a pound, or sold to Mexico through a possible organized horse rustling ring.
A horse theft that did occur in this county was believed to be linked with a ring that's selling horses to Mexico in connection with Calcasieu Parish.
Most of the horses have been taken during the day, although one Beaumont woman had 2 horses stolen at night. The thieves merely rode them off her property and loaded them onto a trailer. Authorities suggest branding the animal for better identification.
Take photographs of their horses from all angles. If they have any kind of distinctive markings on the horses that would be readily identifiable by an investigator of some sort is a big help to us if the horse should be stolen.
If you own a horse, there's really not much you can do to protect yourself against horse thieves, except be aware that the horse rustlers are still around today. Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
Were you surprised by the type of paraphernalia they were showing you?
I certainly was, yes. I had no idea that existed.
This was a typical response. It came from many of the parents we talked to after they had just finished listening to the drug program sponsored by the Texas War on Drugs Committee, a statewide group dedicated to educating people about drug use in the schools. Last night, that education was taught in a very honest but blunt way.
This is called a power hitter. In case you don't know what a marijuana leaf looks like, it's on the back. So you can even find out what grass looks like if it's growing out in your wild patch somewhere in the neighborhood. And this item even has a copyright on it so that you can't take it and do anything else with it. I mean, this fellow is making a lot of money on this one item. It's called a power hitter because it is there to help you achieve a higher and more intense high as you smoke a joint, which is a marijuana cigarette. You attach the cigarette to this little tube inside, light it, put it back in, let the smoke build up on the inside. It has a hole right here that you put your thumb over, and then if you press it, a stream of smoke will come out. And if you hold it about this far from your mouth, and as the smoke is coming out, you are sucking in, so you're going.
Other forms of paraphernalia included a drug stash can that resembled an oil can, a holder for a marijuana cigarette complete with beer opener, and more. After 3 hours, the education was complete.
I've learned certain steps to look for in my children.
Mine are very young, and I have an opportunity, I hope, to educate them.
I think all the parents were real upset to find out there was as much drug activity out here, but I feel like this is the first step.
We have one in high school, we have one in junior high, and we have one in elementary, so we've got a long-range thing that we need to try to find out a way to stop this.
Another similar meeting is scheduled for March 19th at Thomas Jefferson High School in Port Arthur. The public is invited to attend. Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
To the surprise of school district officials, School Board President Clyde Richmond resigned to accept the job of Jefferson County Auditor. After a closed session with the district's attorney, the trustees decided not to take any action on appointing a new president. The Beaumont Classroom Teachers Association made a presentation to the board. The teachers had requested release time for 9 teachers to attend the Texas State Teachers Association convention later this month. Superintendent Colbert said that he could not approve the request based upon a ruling by Texas Attorney General Mark White. However, the teachers disagree, saying the state convention would enable the teachers to learn new skills.
Now, board members, in our opinion, this decision is not saying that teachers may not be granted release time. It's saying that in order to grant release time to anybody or to give use public funds for any individual's benefit or association's benefit, you're going to have to show where a public purpose is rendered. It's going to have to be of the public's benefit.
Buscemi also says that they are only asking that substitute teachers be provided to replace the BCTA members who would be in attendance at the convention. There was some discussion by the school board and the teachers as to whether or not the convention would benefit the school district. Superintendent Colbert says the district has a professional travel plan that allows teachers and administrators to go to conventions that would provide information that would aid the school district. Colbert contends the Texas State Teachers Convention would not provide the district with any educational benefit. Then the trustees voted to deny the request. BCTA President Larry Josh says he is uncertain what step the teachers will take next on the issue. Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News. For the past several months, Beaumont's West End has been victimized by a large string of burglaries, mostly occurring in the daytime. Police believe that the burglaries are being committed by several different persons or groups and not by one organized crime group. So far, police estimate the cost of the jewels, diamonds, and other valuables taken from these homes comes to a total of $500,000. Yesterday, police officers arrested 4 suspects. However, Captain Charles Schultz says they have a long way to go in their investigation.
Of course, we're still investigating on this to determine how many burglaries these people are responsible for. And while we feel like it's some progress, we don't feel like that they're going to be responsible for all of the burglaries that we've had, and we certainly, are still investigating the others, and we'd still like people to call us on any suspicious person. It's not like we can just let our guard down and say, well, we caught him and that's it, because we don't feel like that we have caught all of them.
Captain Schultz says if you're going to leave your home during the daytime for a while, alert a neighbor so they can keep a watchful eye on your home. And of course, if you see any suspicious persons, call the police. Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News.
Several bills have been introduced to the Texas State Legislature that would require service stations to keep gas containers on hand or face up to a $200 fine. And guidelines also call for stations to have road maps available or face another fine. In checking gas stations around the Golden Triangle, we found that nearly all have both gas cans and road maps. Stations charge a small fee for the maps and cite many problems with people taking and not returning the gas cans.
We have gas cans available for all motorists who have trouble on the highway needing gasoline. I do require a $5 deposit on the can plus cash for the gasoline that they get. When they bring the can back, they get their $5 refund.
Well, we got a gas can here. Somebody comes along, if the attendant doesn't charge a big deposit on it, 9 times out of 10 they won't bring it back. And right now we don't have one because of the same situation.
Yeah, quite a few of them comes in and buys the maps, and they pay deposit on the cans and don't bring them back, so they don't come back.
And although most stations have the gas cans and maps on hand now, they did not want the proposed law to be passed that would force stations to supply motorists with certain items.
You're trying to force people to have something that maybe they don't want to have. Let the ones that have it that want it, and those that don't want it, don't have it. I don't believe in forcing anybody to do anything they don't want to do.
Even though gas cans and maps are readily available, the best idea is simply to keep plenty of gas in your car and know where you're going. Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
There are basically 2 laws which govern eligibility for a tax break on agricultural land. In 1966, in an effort to help farmers, the state legislature made it possible for farmers to become eligible for tax breaks if more than half of their income was derived from land productivity. And then in 1979, the law was expanded to allow persons other than those who gained more than half of their income from their land to qualify for agricultural land valuations. The 1979 law differs from the 1966 law in that a person owning agricultural land wouldn't have to exclusively use the land for agriculture or production purposes at all times, but the landowner would have to use the land to the degree that the land surrounding it was used. The objective on the legislature's part in both cases is to allow landowners the option of an agricultural or space valuation on their property rather than the market value. However, there may be times when it will not be advantageous to file for this type of tax break.
It's not to the best interests of every person who has agricultural land to be applying, especially in cases where the land is valued very low. Perhaps the agricultural value could be higher than the actual market value that is carried on a tax roll.
Lamson also reminds agricultural landowners that they have only until April 1st to file for such land tax breaks. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
Hundreds of ships leave the port of Beaumont every year, taking out grain, machinery, flour, everything you can imagine. By looking at these large ships as they leave, you wouldn't think that they would take any kind of passengers or have anything like this, a 6 or 7 foot pool. But there's another side to the many ships that visit the port of Beaumont every year.
This is what port visitors see, large ships being loaded with cargo, in this case, flour bound for Egypt. But this is not your typical merchant ship. This is the Seaman, the pride of the Greek Hellenic line. A crew of 28 maintains this ship, while 12 passengers, yes, passengers, enjoy the luxury of a transatlantic cruise. It's an excellent way for anyone in the Golden Triangle to book passage at a lower rate for a trip to the Mediterranean. This is probably what you wouldn't expect to see aboard a ship like this. Luxurious cabins, recreation rooms, one of the largest baths I've ever seen, and possibly the finest restaurant you've ever eaten in. Albert Zipp and I feasted on a 4-course meal for lunch, something we never do under normal conditions. But these are not normal conditions, and the crew is not what you would expect them to be. They're just like you and me. They have stories of home and their families.
I like this, my life. My family is from Ireland, and I born at sea.
The captain used to be the head man aboard this ship, the Challenger. Ironically, that ship was also in Beaumont today. But the seaman is the pride of the line, and her captain is very pleased with his life aboard her. And you might ask, are there any future ship's captains in the family waiting to follow in the father's footsteps?
My son like, but I don't like.
Why not?
It's better outside. I prefer.
From the port of Beaumont, and hopefully someday to the Mediterranean, Bruce Cates, Channel 6 News.
Last Monday, a petition bearing the names of 885 Port Neches residents was presented to the City Council. But at that time, the Council only voted to accept the petition. The emergency meeting called today was to decide whether or not to place the issue of building a new library on the April 4th ballot. City Attorney Harry Wright said the petition did not meet the standards as specified in the city charter. Several of the councilmen then made statements as to why they were either for or against a referendum vote. Mayor Gary Graham read a letter by banker Wilton Hebert saying that Hebert would withdraw his donation of $250,000 to the city for the construction of a new library if the council voted to place the issue on the April 4th ballot. Apparently, Hebert's letter did not sway their decision, and the city fathers voted to put the library construction project on the April 4th election ballot. Later, a very angry Mayor Graham blamed Dorothy Stanley for the city losing its new library.
Miss Stanley is, like I've said on television several times, Miss Stanley is a beginner. I really feel sorry for the lady. Evidently, she's very starved for attention, and this is the only way she can get it. But this is a democracy, and I'm not taking that away from it. As a democracy, we tolerate communists, we tolerate Nazis, KKK, the Madeline O'Haras, and Port Neches has their Dorothy Stanley.
I think it is a statement of probably the nearest statement of what the real issue is that we have had.
Well, what do you support now? The gift is moot.
I support now. Oh, the library is not moot. We have $100,000 to expand the library we have, which was what we started. We had the plans drawn and everything. So we actually our slogan is books instead of bricks.
In Port Neches, Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News.
Beaumont's Crime Index report, now released by the police department, shows that aggravated assaults increased by 44% over last year, and that cases of rape, although up, fell behind the higher percentage of assault cases. That, too, is a change from last year's report. I talked with Police Chief Willie Bauer about why an increase in assaults. He explained that people's dispositions along with drug and alcohol use were the main contributors, and added,
I really don't know much we can do. This is something over which we have no control.
The increased number of rape cases continues to pose a problem for the police department, and a change in the times makes it more difficult for the rape victim.
10 years ago, the victim knew exactly who raped her. A boyfriend, a relative, a boyfriend of a girlfriend. And today, the vast majority of these rapes are about people that are unknown to the victim.
But Chief Bauer adds that through the efforts of the police department's rape seminars, service organizations, and church groups, more people are aware of the problem of rape and are therefore reporting rape cases more often. One part of the crime report that pleases Chief Bauer the most is that the police department was able to clear 25% of all crime cases in 1980. That's 7% higher than the national average. Chief Bauer praises the citizens of Beaumont for their efforts in helping police clear many of those cases. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
I think the reason why he's making such a point of it is that there is a fairly widespread feeling that courts should be restrained in the extent to which they interfere with or intrude into the activities of an independent school district. And one thing that I think recommends the policy of the school teacher organization is that they are not asking the court to second-guess the judgment of the school district. They're merely asking the court to assist them in requiring the school district to activate and use the internal procedures that the school district itself has set up.
About 8:45 last night, the Briggs family noticed a flash of light coming from in front of their home. When ex-Mayor Al Briggs went to investigate, this is what he found. The incident was immediately reported to the police.
And the cross was just barely stuck in the yard and leaned up against my mailbox. And it was completely ablaze at that time.
Do you believe the Klan did this?
Well, that's a mark of the Klan, so I have to believe that the Klan did it, yes.
Was this cross burning a warning from the Ku Klux Klan? Briggs thinks so, since he has been, in his words, harassed by these people before.
When they do underhanded tricks like this, I'm not for sure that my home won't be the next. So I think that the people of our community has to take this seriously, and I'm certainly taking it seriously. My home and my family has been threatened, and this is one of the threats that they do before other violence takes place.
And what is the Klan's reaction to all this?
Well, it definitely was not Klan, I'll tell you that.
It wasn't?
No.
Well,
hell no, it wasn't Klan.
Well, who do you think it was?
I personally think that he had plenty to do with it himself.
Even though the Klan denies any direct involvement, they say they know why the cross was burned. That story tomorrow night. Jim Oliver, Inviter, Channel 6 News.
Today was a big day for the 273rd Electronics Installation Squadron based out of the Jefferson County Airport. The squadron received the Air Force Communication Command's Award for Civic Achievement. Air Force Major General Robert Jerez was on hand to present the award. Most of the squadron's officers are members of various community organizations. General Jerez also talked about President Ronald Reagan's plan to increase the military budget to beef up the nation's defense. The general says the president's plan should strengthen the nation's combat readiness.
Those who might threaten us have weapons delivery systems that outnumber ours in large quantities, 3 and 4 times as many. Tanks, airplanes, artillery pieces, missiles, and so forth as we have. And faced with the potential threat that one might envision downstream, that's not a very comfortable position for our country to be in. I feel that it's very important for the security of our country to make these kinds of investments.
General Jerez also says the Air Force has a number of new planes which will become operational in the near future, and that will help them move more quickly into the world's trouble spots. Mario Gomez, Channel 6 News.
Marshall